welcome to this episode of Twin Peaks. We're back with more Twin Peaks after the Thanksgiving break. How was you guys' Thanksgiving?
Full of foods.
Full of something.
Did you guys have any brioche buns to commemorate?
I did not have a brioche
Dude,
bun,
I
but
didn't have brioche. I
had
wish.
some bread.
Good. That's good.
I had bread in multiple forms. Stuffing and bread.
Bread.
And bread. And rolls. And more bread.
I suppose breadcrumbs are also part of, like, green bean casserole.
There you go. Yeah, sometimes you do like a corn bake or like a scalloped corn, you know? Sometimes you...
Sometimes you take an ear of corn and you stick it in the oven and you pray to the gods, to the spirits of the underworld, and you say, make my Thanksgiving the best Thanksgiving feast I've ever seen. And then it goes pow, 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 and you get Thanksgiving magic. Brought to you by the Pilgrims.
Was that somebody from Twin
Brought
Peaks?
to you by the Pilgrims.
That's somebody who owns a corner stool at the Roadhouse and just, like, is the fucking barfly there.
Right?
Oh, no, boy.
I was thinking you were being Jack Nance for a second. Josie, let me tell you about just corn on the
Josie?
cob.
You got to put a corn on the cob.
Drawn on the crab.
That's probably how, I mean, he probably makes Jiffy Pop in, like, you know, the little tin that you put on the burner and stuff. But I could imagine Pete Martell having this really weird, esoteric way of making popcorn that nobody else does.
Yeah? It's like, I know
That's
what
fair.
special technique, Josie. I'll show it to you sometime. All right, well, we'd like to thank you and welcome back.
You have popping corn, Pete?
You like popping corn, Pete?
You want to have popping corn, Pete?
It's called popcorn, Josie.
Not popping corn.
Yeah, that would be the interaction between those two. That's funny.
And then Catherine would just shoot them both with a shotgun.
I had enough of that talk.
Yeah, she'd have some sort of, like, snarky line afterwards, like, Pop goes the weasel or some shit. I don't know. Or she'd be dressed incognito as Orville Redenbacher to kill them both.
Yeah, if you recall, in our last episode, I was unfortunately disabled with microphone problems, but
Oh, yeah.
Broadshow's Dream Soul spoke on behalf of that, and Wilson was just talking into the void, into the Dream Soul state. But I'm back now. I can tell I'm back because I can see my waveform
can?
or my peak audio levels bounce. So I'm here. But we'd like to thank you for joining us. Make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and be notified whenever we come out with more Twin Peaks stuff. We're going to be diving into the next episode, which is called The Orchid's Curse. And that sounds really cool and ominous. And from our last episode, there was a Japanese businessman that came by and gave some brief nods.
Hi.
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 But yeah, I want to see how that storyline comes about, and the other things that have been discussed, like the Laura's diary, and Leland, and all the crap with the judge that we saw. That was really interesting. When the judge had his little speech that he gave in that really rainy, lightning-filled conference room.
Mm-hmm.
The flashes of lightning and, you know, talking about Valhalla. Really creepy, ominous stuff.
I really liked the thumbnail image that you used for the last episode of just, like, Ray Wise just going straight down the barrel.
Yeah.
I think we're getting further and further into that, the real dark stuff in Twin Peaks, which is, for me, some of the most enjoyable stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the episode and we'll be back to discuss it. Stay tuned. That was freaky. Great episode, though.
The dreams whole of the Southern Seaman.
Mm-hmm. The Dream Soul showed up. I mean, the dreams, the entity known as Eric Bradshaw was there for the majority of the episode, I would say, but the Dream Soul happened probably.
The Dream Soul inhabited part of that occupation of his.
Mhm. I really liked this episode. It was very well paced, I thought. And the elements I liked were, I would say, this stuff. This stuff with this creepy dude.
Yeah.
It was
Good.
good conversations we were having during it because he's such a unique character in Twin Peaks, and he's withholding a lot of this secret information from our sleuths, our junior sleuths. For the whole, like, the meat of the episode relies a lot on these interactions here. But the stuff I really liked was the rescue of Audrey Horne. That stuff was I forgot that was like the only scene we see of James just sitting there eating a stupid sandwich.
Yeah, his stupid little mashed potato and whatever he's eating here. What? He's got the whole pot of coffee next to him too.
He's like, "What are you guys doing?" She's like, "I'm just getting
I don't
something
have time
for my
to talk about that,
family."
James.
He's like, "Okay, I'll stay here, whatever."
I guess I'll just be eating sad.
Yeah, so like, but the raid of One-Eyed Jacks to go save Audrey was really cool moment of the episode.
It's like it's not the first time that we've had those tactical moves, because we've definitely, like, we had the storming of Jacques' apartment, I think, where we had the, like,
Yes, the
evening
music
tennis mat.
the music that plays during that, it was
Well,
really eerie.
I'm talking about when they are, like, in town and there's that evening tennis match that then cuts to them, like, going into Jacques' apartment.
Oh, is that a different scene then? Because what am I thinking of? There was that.
You're thinking of when Hawk and the Doc and Sheriff and everybody go to the cabin and the Julie Cruz song is playing. And
Oh, okay.
but there's multiple times where we get these, like, tactical fucking barrages, or, like, these movements of our hero characters. And like, there's one later where they're what's his name, David Duchovny and Dale are, like, in a cabin with Michael Parks, and they have to, like, plan a rescue for them and stuff.
Okay. Yeah, I like the smooth operator stuff, and yeah, it shows that they're protectors. They're they're the Bookhouse boys. Like they have to save people from this doom and gloom, and yeah, good.
Yeah,
scene.
they're operating outside of their jurisdiction because they're across the border
Yep.
in Canada.
Yeah, they're not supposed to be there. That's why he's not wearing his badge.
Yeah.
They're not there under any professional circumstance. They're like, we're just gonna raid this place and get Audrey back.
Oh, yeah. In the early episodes, when Dale sits down with Big Ed and the sheriff and Hawk at the Double R, and they start telling him about the Bookhouse Boys, Dale asks Big Ed, he's like, "I didn't know you were deputized," or something like that. He's like, "I'm not. And somebody says something like, sometimes we work outside of the legal jurisdiction to get things done that need to be done around here because the woods are creepy and all this stuff."
Yeah, good point. And that was all the way from season 1.
Yeah, it really is, like, awesome to see them branch out beyond there. I think there's even more moments in the future where, like, Harry's like, "Fuck the badge, I'm gonna help you anyways, Coop."
Yeah. You just got to do what's right. Like they're just using that as like a status. As like we just.
Yeah, I mean, as a ways of like showing the conditions.
Good input. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's nice, like, the sense of camaraderie and kinship and brotherhood that these people come to, like, consider themselves in, where Dale's like, I think I'm gonna move here. I think I'm gonna buy a place here. And to me, that's part of the charm of this show, is, like, seeing the further developments of these relationships and seeing these characters that you enjoy become closer with each other and, like, develop in those ways.
Mm-hmm. And then they get to axe a few of the antagonists, like Blackie, and that was kind of an interesting like take where Harry got to witness Blackie's death. I don't even know if Harry knew her influence on the situation at hand.
Yeah,
He probably just thought she was like, oh, or he goes, that's probably just a prostitute he killed.
or yeah, like somebody who works at One Eyed Jacks. Yeah, it's interesting that like it's we spend a lot of time on this whole subplot of like Audrey being at One Eyed Jacks and having heroin pumped into her and all this stuff. But there is like Dale's and like Dale and the sheriff and everybody, their involvement in it is already on a false basis where they're being fed the wrong information from Ben Horn and stuff, and like they just kind of stumble into things and do end up saving Audrey, but almost by accident, like taking or Blackie getting out of the equation and the dominoes falling how they do is like total happenstance.
Right. But now like there's a lot of people that Ben Horn has been, relying on, and Blackie was one. Who do we have now? Like, who's left? Leo Johnson was one of his. Hank is one of his, but
Hank
now
was in the wall.
Hank is the wall guy. Yeah.
He just popped out of it was just in his office, like, oh, Cooper's coming, and then crept back in. Like,
yeah.
he's just such a lurker.
Yeah, there he is. He's like, I'm gonna go with the wall, and then look, Bobby noticed him.
Oh,
oh,
look in the background.
Yep. What was happening here?
There's another group. They look like I don't know. I don't even know what you would call that, but that is like
They're from
wearing, like,
India. Looks like they're from.
They're wearing turbans, or maybe like Tibet or something. But that's another example of what I was talking about before. Like it seems like.
Well, they have the ceremonial sabers. I know that. Do you see that? They have the ceremonial saber.
Oh yeah, they do.
The dagger on their side,
on
their hip. Yeah, so they are like from the UAE or something like that.
It seems like every time that we spend more than a couple minutes, if we're seeing a place in the Great Northern that's not like Ben Horn's office or Dale's room, we get to see all these different groups that just like meander through this place like a breeze. They just kind of come and go.
Yeah, so that's a really bizarre one. So yeah, you wouldn't expect that, but they all have to like you said in the last episode that we discussed, it's like a through point, like it's a junction between two spaces. So it's like anybody's coming through those doors. It could be, yeah, lumberjacks, sure, because that's the demographic of the area. But why are people from the Middle East or like Asia areas coming to here? Like, what is it about this location that brings all these weird demographics of people?
We come to learn, or like we already know based on a couple things, that like Major Briggs is operating out of a deep space observation outpost that is within the region of Twin Peaks, and so is the Owl Cave with all the petroglyphs in it. So is Glastonbury Grove, and the whole region is like a magnet for happenings. And it just seems like, yeah, people are like drawn. Why are people from the UAE in this one corner of Washington instead of New York City or someplace else?
Right. I'm just looking up traditional like turban, and because I want to get it right. I don't want to just claim that it's what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's like there's something about this whole region of Twin Peaks that just like draws people in and takes something from them or leaves something with them that they then carry on into the rest of the world.
Yeah, can you talk a little bit more about the Major Briggs and that, like, because he did mention that. Was that in the first season?
No, it was in season 2 when Major Briggs goes to visit Coop, because it's like right after Coop's been shot. He's like, garbage, gibberish, Agent Cooper. But he points out like Cooper, and it happens like right after Dale gets shot.
That's
he says
right.
Something about,
yes, he does.
I work in a deep space observation outpost or something like that. Like
That's right.
That's how he frames his work to Dale. He's like, I look out into the weird vastness of space and see what comes out of it.
And it's Sikh culture. The Sikh culture uses or have the turban and the ceremonial dagger. So yeah, so a couple Sikh bros show up and hang out at the lobby, and it's usually just the lobby. Like you don't see them anyplace else. They're all either leaving because they have their bags. They're checking them to either get into their rooms or they're leaving.
Well, it kind of like reminds me of how Hawk talks about like the dweller on the threshold, and like to get to the White Lodge, you must pass through the Black Lodge, and when you're in the Black Lodge, you will be confronted by your shadow self, and if you meet that with imperfect courage or with fear in your heart, you know, your soul will be ripped out and all this stuff. And it's like it just kind of reminds, like, a lobby of a hotel is a waiting space within a waiting space.
Mm-hmm.
And they're passing through from one place to another. There's like, I don't know if that's thematic or what, but it does kind of like harken back to some of the other stuff that happens and is talked about in the show.
Yeah, we have to keep that as like an ongoing thing that we discuss in every episode. Is like, all right, who do we see in the lobby today? You know, like who do we see in the lobby in this episode? I
don't think that that's unimportant, because based on what we see later on in the season 2, like with what happens with Josie, and then even in the return, there continues to be the Great Northern continues to be this like super duper hotspot of paranormal and supernatural activity.
Yeah,
that's how Dale gets to wherever the hell he meets Philip Jeffries. He goes to the Great Northern and puts his key in the door and goes in like this one specific spot, or it's like the boiler room of the Great Northern or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Andy's a whole damn town.
Andy's a whole damn town. That was a pretty good scene, I guess. The conversation on the phone where she's like, "Good job, sir. Yes, sir."
She's so pleased to be giving him this news.
Yeah.
It's really like, this is such a nice moment of levity, like in between all the Harold stuff where it's like kind of like dour and contemplative, and then the dark stuff of like, you know, teenage girls being drugged and kept in whorehouses and shit like that.
Yeah.
And then you just get this fun little scene of Andy covered in Post-its finding out that he's all damn down.
Well, Andy's drawing pictures.
Fun little seeds. Finding out he's got some small little seeds.
There's a moment in here at the end of the scene where he like pushes papers aside, and we kind of pan across the desk, and he's looking for the number for Lucy's sister.
Mm-hmm.
There's like, yeah, the pad of paper underneath all of this. We like pan across it, and I'd be curious to see what some of it said, because I thought I saw something that said like so and so lives, or like there's all kinds of weird little drawings of these caricatures and little sayings and doodles, and I would be curious to see what is comprised of that.
Mm-hmm. Or if that's all Andy, because he's an artist.
Well, I mean, or is it Lucy, or is it just people like? But there, yeah, it's somebody had to, for the production, somebody had to sit down and like make all that. So it would be curious to see if they put anything in there that would have been symbolic or important or, iconic for the rest of the show.
Yeah, some kind of subliminal message in there or something. I like how Harry goes out zipping the fly, and he just looks at Andy like, "What?"
I'm a whole damn town.
And then you can see it in his eyes. He's just like, "I'm dealing with Andy right now."
Sure you are, Andy.
You're right here. This is the most pleasant face Harry has done. It's like, "I got you, Andy. Sure."
He's done this exact look a million times to Andy. Just that little smile and nod of like, mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Yep, we're cool. See ya. Whoa! He's like, "Yeah, don't ask, dude." Um, yeah. Other than that, there's like I said, the final moments where Dutch angles start happening gets kind of
Mhm.
wacky. Um, I hope they can be done with this plot line soon.
They will be.
Because this
It,
dude is
I,
just, I don't care.
it kind of is a waste of time, but it is like good. You can't always have the meat and potatoes. You got to have some parsley on the side. You got to have the salt and pepper. It's
You gotta have the cum in the pants.
yeah. I mean, you got to have the southern seamen and the legumes and beans.
He beamed
But
himself so hard at the one scene when like she took the book away from him, and then she like went outside and he just
oh,
he creamed so hard.
creamed beans.
I cream my beans so hard right now.
Garmon beansia.
I got Garmin Beesia in my pants.
That's such bullshit. Like I don't think that he's actually agoraphobic or whatever because he went outside and he collapsed, but he still is lucid enough to be able to like grab the thing that he was trying to get in the first
Yeah,
place.
no kidding.
No,
He's like, the book is my, yeah, I need it.
either you're crippled by what's going on, or you're just playing this up to get Donna to stop doing it, and then you can grab the book.
See, like, okay, can we talk a little bit about this? Like, is there something that's more, if he's not, it's not psychological with him, but it's actually a presence taking hold of him, maybe?
Mm.
Because let's look at this. Let's dive into this. It's a guy that is really obsessed with plants and flowers and agriculture, and that's tied to the earthly connection to wood of the area. Even his looks like his door frame is made out of wood posts, so
Mm.
it's like, is he some kind of threat to nature? Because look at this, he's seizing because he's out in nature now, and
Yeah, he's like in direct sunlight.
he's
He's like a vampire.
he's looking up. He's like, he probably is either he's not looking directly at the sun. He is looking at like the treetops, tree canopies, and
The vast, wide open sky above him.
yeah. So there's something maybe that's not just maybe in his head. It could be something more in line with the evil
That's what I was saying, like
of
super
nature.
early on. It's like people like this in Twin Peaks, um, regardless of whether or not he has a medical affliction or like a
And there's
some
wood.
sort of mental, is the fact that he is in this area, is he being affected by the weird vibes and the undertones and the good vibrations?
Yeah, I'm. That's what I'd like to speculate on because it's more than you would think. Like, oh yeah, this guy is just an agoraphobe. He's a shut-in bubble boy, and he has this weird interest in flowers. But like, no, you're not reading into the mythology of Twin Peaks then, because like everything should have a connection of some kind. Like, why is this guy here?
Let's extend this even more to like Toad, because he is like just a lump that is constantly consuming. Like every time that we see him, he's basically eating. And even there's like a scene where he's in the double R, and Norma like shoos him into the back, and he's like still eating out of the pots and stuff back there. Is that some sort of like he's just like a gluttonous black hole that has something to do with the ambitions and greed of men, or like there's so much weird stuff going on, especially with people like Nadine and fucking Jacoby and all these weird characters. You kind of, it behooves you to ask these out there questions about them.
Yep, I totally
Because
agree.
great example right here is Leland Palmer. Clearly, this is somebody that like I'm gonna just like boil it down to saying his major issue is that he is being majorly fucked with by forces outside of his control and outside of anybody's understanding.
Yep.
So who's to say that any random schmo might not have the 100% that Leland has, but maybe they've got a drop in the bucket. Maybe they've got 5%. Maybe they've got 15 or 20, and that leads to something like Nadine, or Harold here, or Johnny, or whomever, or fucking the old lady that lives next to Harold with her magician grandson.
Yep. His Garmonbosia. Yeah.
Like there's something in the water, in the air that just like permeates the town, the people, the things that they live in. Like all this wood paneling and browns and shit.
All the brown, all the shit.
All brown. Everywhere's brown. Every single location that we just looked at in the past 5 seconds is
Yeah.
wood.
All brown. I mean, okay, let's look. It's all brown.
Brown.
It's that vivid green and brown.
Yeah, that too is like a sharp contrast, which speaks to me of like the White Lodge, Black Lodge, like a dichotomy of can't have brown without not brown.
Yeah, with like a really ugly like chartreuse, or what would you call that green? Like
Oh,
it's not chartreuse. That's like
that's like lime green kind of. It's
yeah.
like
What's is it? Puce?
brighter than Kermit, but not as much as neon. Fluorescent green.
Yeah, chartreuse. Chartreuse is that that gross green, kind of like well, that's more of like a neon green. Maybe I'm looking at it now, and I'm looking at chartreuse, and that's like a pea green almost.
Well, and it's a little bit hard to like with it against that brown. I think if it was just the green isolated, it might be a little bit easier to nail down.
Okay, let's look at Dale's little collection of things he's got so far on his desk. I saw the duck call.
Mhm.
That was kind of a nice little
He's got
setup
the
gag.
chief. He's got a little like one of those like pocket clocks that fold up.
I saw that too. Got his badge. Got his
Badge.
revolver ammo. He's got his duck call.
Folding knife, watch. Yeah.
What's that by the Indian chief? Is that a battery?
Sitting in front of the Indian chief.
Yeah.
I cannot tell,
It looks like it's just a battery.
or maybe yeah, a battery. Yeah, it could just be a battery
Interesting.
for the clock or for his recorder.
Well, that's pretty much all we have to really. Wanted to discuss about this episode because yeah, it's coming together. This guy's situation a little bit more. Just diving into maybe him not being actually agoraphobic, but just affected by nature of Twin Peaks in itself. If he just left Twin Peaks, he'd be fine. But it's coming off like he's a prisoner.
He said he was from Boston, so at some point he went from that area to Twin Peaks. So like maybe when he started living in Twin Peaks, he was fine, and then over time started feeling those symptoms of agoraphobia or whatever it is, and then now he's like just a shut-in because he can't handle. I don't know, man.
Maybe he was looking at an owl. You know, like maybe an owl was making him like seize up. Like you stay in your house. You don't come out here.
You were onto something with his like he is like a gardener and he orchestrates the like blooming life of flowers and plants, and he is like that's his way of controlling the world around him without actually being out there. It's weird that like I think agoraphobia is like is that a fear of being outside or
Touching people, I think getting germs.
agoraphobia is a type of anxiety disorder, is afraid to leave environments they know or consider to be safe. In severe cases, a person with agoraphobia considers their home to be the only safe environment.
So yeah, like a bubble boy.
So it's interesting that he like has a problem with really he just phrases it as like outside, and then he's recreating the at least some aspects of the outside world in his inside world.
That could mean like the title of this episode, "The Orchid's Curse," could have some holdover on him. You know, like maybe that was a part of his affliction was this orchid's curse. I don't know if that means something else in other texts or they took it from somewhere. But
I'm trying to look that up right now.
Because it could mean that if you have the orchid's curse, it's you can't go outside, or it's like you can't go out into nature, or else nature will attack you or something, you know, or if it's from kind of like a fable of some kind.
If you, yeah, if, like, you can appreciate an orchid in the wild, but if you try and make it, you try and grow it or make it on your own, it'll never come to fruition because you can't achieve through, like, you can't like orchestrate or like guide this beautiful thing into life. It just has to come from chaos and whatever happens in the world.
Yeah, and he did talk a little bit about that when they were doing the spy stuff, and he was like fingering the flowers and stuff.
Like a bottom lip.
Yeah.
Combination. Oh, that was just some good frames right there.
Yeah,
Wide-eyed Dale.
What? Yeah, I think I'm just gonna play it from here. But yeah, that's it was some good action, good exposition. All around pretty solid episode.
I think it's not any surprise to say that I'm gonna guess that next episode is the very last appearance that we're gonna get of Harold.
Okay, and it's called Demons.
Oh, ooh, that might also. Ooh, yeah. I mean, like I said, I think that ever since the previous episode that we watched was the turning point where we're gonna just be like dealing a lot more with the darkest stuff of this show.
Right.
So maybe Demons is going to be pretty revelatory in a couple different ways. Who knows?
Oh, yep. I'm looking at the other titles for the coming up after Demons, and yeah, it's getting up there with like really mysterious sounding.
Trees move in mysterious ways. They have branch. They have branch.
Trees.
Yes.
Trees.
You make your daddy proud.
Thank you guys for joining us on this episode, and thank you Dream Soul for showing up.
Be sure to hit that like button, just like Hawk threw the knife into that man's back just now.
Throw that like button.
Throw something into that like button and just smack dab in the middle of the meat.
Make sure you leave a quirky one-liner comment in the comments below. What would you say if you threw a knife into somebody's back and you saw two guys carrying a woman over their shoulder?
Here's some things you can comment: beans or legumes or nuts, or would you rather have a Kit Kat or a Twix, or who is Van Dyke Parks?
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. Make sure to stay tuned for more Twin Peaks discussions. Let us know. Like I said, you don't have to just give us those witty one-liners. You can comment what you liked about our discussion, or maybe you have some more things you want to elaborate on what we discussed. Because I'm totally interested now that we kind of tackled the maybe meaning behind this agoraphobe dude. It could mean anything. Maybe you have a different interpretation. Let us know.
That's one thing that I really like about this show is that it is so open to interpretation. And I think there are things that I have interpreted, and I definitely don't think though that those are the end all be all. And I would love to hear different takes than anything I've ever heard of, because it's just more food for thought and it's so interesting.
I agree. And we'll be back with more. So thanks so much. We'll see you later.
Goodbye.
Whoa.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.